Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another Getting Started guide for EVE Echoes. This time around we are going to be looking at strip mining and the differences between strip mining and standard mining. Before we jump in, as usual, I do have a lot of fun making these videos. If you want to support this channel, you can do so by hitting like on this video, commenting in the comment section down below about what you enjoyed or what you want to see next, and of course you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Otherwise, come join me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Patreon. There's a couple other social media sites and that I'm on as well. I'm always happy to chat with you folks. Right, all that said and done, let's jump in. Now, this beastly ship that you're looking at on screen now, complete with fire flares, which I absolutely adore. I just love how it does that from top and bottom. This is a retriever. This is a mining barge. So, to explain what I mean by that, if we open up our ship tree and come out of Minmatar, of course, and into ore, by now you should be familiar with the Venture series of ships. There we are, Venture, which is a mining frigate, all the way up to the Venture 3, and beyond. Then on the tree here, we have our second branch, which is then our mining barges. Now, the easiest way to think of this is kind of like as with the other factions and the main empires, that you have your frigates, you have your destroyers, you have your cruisers, frigates and destroyers being small ships, cruisers and battle cruisers being medium ships, and then your battleships being your large ships. You can kind of think of that here too. This is ore's equivalent of a cruiser. As such, it does use different fittings, and it does use different skills to the Venture. Now, before we go too much into the ship, we need to just discuss what strip mining is. Now, strip mining is a slightly different variant of mining. If you've got a Venture or a Venture 2 or Venture 3, you'll know that you go out into an asteroid field, you activate your mining lasers, and you carve chunks out of the asteroids into your holds. You do that with mining lasers. When you were looking at mining lasers, you may have spotted some of these things called strip miners, and you looked at the bottom and went, mining amount 3,180, that's amazing! Of course I want to fit that onto my ship. All very well and good. These will not fit onto something like a Venture or a Magnate or any of the smaller ships. Strip miners will only fit into mining barges. They are that big and that powerful. Now, ultimately, strip mining does have a slight difference to mining as well. Mining is very specific. It's great at going out into an asteroid belt, finding the particular type of asteroid you're after, whether it's Veldspar or Dark Ochre or whatever. You sit by that asteroid and you mine it till it's dry. Strip mining, as you'll see, is a much more passive affair. You kind of drift through an asteroid belt and just strip out everything. That does mean that if you're looking at strip mining as an upgrade to mining, you could kind of be disappointed. Ultimately, mining is going to be better if you are after a very specific type of ore. If you're just going after Kernite, mining in Venture 3 is going to be the better way to do it. If you want to grab a ton of ores that you want to sell on the market, that's where strip mining comes in, and I'll showcase that in just a moment. First of all then, let's have a look at the Retriever's information page. First of all, its roll bonus. Like with the Venture, it has a strip miner yield bonus of 100%, an additional strip miner fitting, and +1 warp stability. Now, this does mean, compared to a Venture which has +2, a Retriever is easier to lock down. That is worth mentioning now. Retrievers are easy to lock into position. Anyone who has something like a faction warp scrambler will be able to lock a Retriever into position. Now, of course, then you have the skill bonuses. Strip mining will give you, in addition to the bonuses that the strip mining skill would normally give you, you get an additional 20% strip miner yield and 10% medium drone damage. Followed then by Advanced Industrial Ship Command will give you a reduction to your strip miner duration and an additional bonus to your medium drone hit points. Now, ultimately, I'm going to say the same thing I said in regards to drones in the Venture video. Mining drones are not a thing yet in EVE Echoes. Combat drones, don't even bother putting them on your ship. They do nothing. They give you a false sense of security if you've got them hovering nearby. If you are ever in a combat situation, your drones are not going to do anything. You're going to be long dead before those drones kill whatever's after you. Anyway, that said and done, let's look at the basic info. Overall defense for a retriever is pretty darn high at 8,051. You can see, though, that the inertia modifier, flight speed, and warp speed are ludicrously low. This thing is a lumbering behemoth. It just sits there, and it does not go anywhere quickly. Beyond that as well, we have then our signature radius of 250 meters, and that's pretty large. This thing isn't difficult to hit, but it does have an exceptionally large ore hold, 50,000 meters cubed. That's a lot of ore, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. Finally, cargo hold capacity of 900 meters cubed. Don't know why you'd ever really want to do anything with that. That's going to fill up in seconds while you're strip mining. It's that ore hold that's the important part. Anyway, so this is the Retriever. Now, as you can see, mine I've kitted out with 2 Mark V strip miners. You can go all the way up to like the faction lasers. There is like the Galente strip miners, or things like there's a single diode strip miner. Of course, those are more efficient. They're also a lot more expensive. You can find them on the market. They might be worth it if this is something you get into. But for me doing this video, I've found this is more than enough for me just having 2 Mark V strip miners. Medium slots are, as we've said before, ultimately they are sub-weapon systems. As you never want to be really getting into a combat situation, I don't see why you'd ever really need these. You want to be getting out of combat if you're in it. You don't want to be sticking around and trying to be a warp disruptor or neutralizing their energy or anything like that. It's not going to save you. That sorry, excuse me. That then brings us down to the low slots. Now, the low slots are then... This is where things get a little bit more confusing. Now, of course, the first thing you've just seen there that I have is a Mark V 10 meganewton afterburner. You can use a micro warp drive, I just didn't have one handy. This is literally just for moving through asteroid fields faster, and as a way to align quicker in order to jump or to reach warp speed quicker if you're jumping out of an intense combat situation. I then have here a warp core stabilizer. A Mark I warp core stabilizer is good. I would normally fit 2 of these. If I can do, just to help, if someone does come in, you can whack that warp core stabilizer as a way of getting out quickly. This isn't a shield booster, that's a shield extender, which of course is the thing that just gives you a little bit of extra speed, a bit of extra shield. If you do find yourself in a combat situation, you can pop that, get an extra chunk of health while you get out of the way. And just for a little bit of extra security, I have a Mark V cloaking device. If I see someone come into the asteroid belt while I'm mining, I can pop that cloaking device and immediately hide myself. Now, rigs I have actually fitted on this one because I have been using it fairly effectively. On the left-hand side under power grid rigs, I have a core defense field extender. Ultimately, again, that is just straight up additional shield. The bigger my shield, the more health I have for them to chunk through before I'm destroyed. That means while I am slowly aligning and slowly reaching warp speed to get to safety, I have more health for them to chew through. That means here, power grid rigs, I would actually also consider putting in a power grid rig, the one that extends your armor by 20% as well, just boosting your hit points. Now, in regards to the industrial rigs, I have 3 of these. Mechanical rigs, the minor efficiency upgrade. Of course, that's the one that means that you get an additional 20% from your mining lasers. People have asked, do things that boost miners boost strip miners too? For the most part, yes. Minor efficiency upgrade, therefore, is useful for strip mining. Minor circulation accelerator, that is obviously your activation timer and your duration time adjustment. So you mine faster, I mine more, and I mine it quicker. And finally, a warp core optimizer, just to mean that the warp jammers that hit me are at reduced strength. That is an absolute must-have on a ship like this. Otherwise, you're going to get locked down very quickly and just be utterly screwed sitting there in an asteroid field waiting for death to claim you. Now, of course, offense, you can see DPS is, of course, 0. We'd expect nothing else. This is not a combat ship. But for my defense, look at those stats. 4,836 hit points of shields to get through, then 1,904 of armor, before then hitting 2,240 of structure. That is a lot of HP in total, 10,311, before someone can destroy this ship and start stealing its ore. That said, if you are using a retriever to go strip mining in low or nullsec, I would strongly recommend bringing a friend with you. Someone who can protect you whilst you're doing this, especially in nullsec. Nullsec mining on your own in a retriever is very risky, simply for the just the extremely slow speed that you do everything. Okay, so that's how to look at the ship. Let's talk about skills. Now, of course, skills for a strip miner are pretty much what you would expect from, mining. In mining, you want to have your mining skill, then advanced mining. For strip mining, it's the same. You want to go into strip mining, first of all, simply because it increases your yield, it increases your optimal range, and it reduces your activation costs. You can also then go up into advanced strip mining, into expert strip mining, just because that's going to give you bigger and bigger yields. Resource processing is, of course, useful if you're looking to sell on the market. Simply, as I mentioned in the mining videos before, pick whichever ore it is that you're mainly mining. If you're mining in high sec, you're going to want common and uncommon first. If you're right the way down in null sec, then obviously things like rare and precious ore reprocessing are going to be most important. I would recommend, because of how strip mining works, if you're going to be mining in hull sec, get common ore reprocessing to 4 and uncommon ore reprocessing to 4 before getting either of them to 5, because as you drift through a belt, as I'll show you in a moment, you will be mining lots of different things. Of course, if you're then selling that on the market, trade is a great one to skill into, simply because you can get those additional market orders. I actually need to, when we get the beta reset and come back up, I will be putting more skills into trade, just because I find I run out of market orders very quickly. An additional 5 market orders is nothing to sniff at, and that's just for getting it to 5. Accounting, people shouted at me for not mentioning this properly last time. It can be very useful. I was looking at things mainly like the hired transporter delivery time, and the broker's fee, that kind of thing, but it's the sales tax that's the important thing ultimately on there, which is that when you sell something, you make more money off it. So accounting can actually be a very useful skill for selling on the market. I've just been working on other things, and I just don't have the skill points to go around. Of course, under cruising technology, if you come right the way down here, you do, of course, have industrial ship command. If we open this one up, this is a very useful skill for those big ships, simply because it gives you this additional inertia modifier and additional ship velocity. As I said, the fact that this ship moves so ludicrously slow, that actually can make quite the difference. Anyway, I think we've said enough about strip mining, about what to do, what it kind of looks like, and how to fit your ship. Let's go and actually have a look at some strip mining in action. Here we are then in Berta. Berta is a 0.5 security system that is 2 jumps away from Maspa to the galactic south. I thought doing this in a secure area would be a better idea than doing it in a in a low sec or null sec area. So I'm right at the bottom of high sec. Now, there's a couple of things before we jump into the asteroid belt. I do just want to showcase in respect to using a strip miner. Now, first things first, that is that actually, as silly as this sounds, we don't really need to have asteroids on in things that you can see here under Celestial Body. Whether or not you have asteroids or that showing is up to you. I personally choose to have it off. I will show you why I have it off in just a moment. Secondarily, whilst we're on the list here, we're going to look for these asteroid clusters, and we're going to pick one to go to. I just want to showcase something else in regards to jumping to asteroid belts. As you can see, obviously when you tap on it, you get that usual warp, approach, and info. Now, because this is such a slow ship, and because of how strip mining works, I don't actually want to jump into the main point. There is nothing worse than if this was a 0.4 or lower system, to find that there is someone already in that asteroid belt just camping it, waiting for someone like me to come along. Now, if you long press on warp and then slide, you can actually warp to closer or further away from that central point in the field. I'm actually going to warp to a 50 kilometers radius. Now, the reason I want to show this is because look at how slow this thing actually moves. You can see at the bottom there how ridiculous this is. It's terrible. And while that's going as well, what we're also going to do is quickly open up the map, go to any old system, it doesn't actually matter which. I'm just going to go set as destination there for Iberia, and now you'll see that I've set my overview here so that I can still see the arrow for the autopilot on the left. That means that once I'm out here, I can just tap that and immediately start going towards it. I've moved this just out of the way enough that I can still tap that little autopilot arrow on the left, which allows me to get out of here quickly. Now here we are in a field, you can see the asteroids are there. If I go to my local, and we've got a couple of people in Ventures mining already, what I'm going to do is find one of these and start to approach that asteroid. We're going to activate both the strip miners and the afterburner here. And you see it says no ores in range. Notice I haven't locked anything. You don't really need to. What I am going to do is just briefly, I'm going to put the asteroid listing back on so we can see if there are any particularly close ones or anything in particular that we like the look of. Nope, so I want to go for something fairly central that's fairly far away even, so let's go for that Plagioclase one there. We're going to approach that and we're going to turn asteroids back off. Now I've got my micro warp drive going, not my micro warp drive, again I keep calling them micro warp drives. I've got my afterburner going so that you can see even then how ridiculously slow this ship moves. I'm going to keep that overview open. I can see here that I've got two Ventures, a Venture 3 and a Venture 2 in range. They're nothing for me to worry about at this point in time. If something else comes in, I can activate that cloak, and it's going to look like I've warped out of the system. And you just sit there with the cloak on, and you pray that they're going to leave the asteroid belt before you do. And you see this is, of course, massively draining my capacitor as well, and it's taking ages to get in. So I'm actually going to pause the video here, and I'm going to cut forward to once we're in range of the ores. Phew, that took a little bit of time to get to. I definitely warped too far away to the wrong end of this asteroid cluster, but I'm now coming into the 18 kilometers range of this particular asteroid. There are others that are close, that are not quite as far away as they were before. Now that we're in that 18 kilometers range, I'm going to switch on my strip miners. Now you'll see that, of course, I am still keeping that autopilot visible. My strip mining lasers are now active, we're coming into range, and without needing to do anything, I'm starting to harvest, wow, nice little bit of lag there right in the middle of the video, thank you very much, from every asteroid that I'm passing. So at this point in time, all I'm doing now is drifting. I'm drifting past that Veldspar asteroid and towards that Plagioclase asteroid. Now if I sit there and have a look at these ones, there's another Veldspar there, and an Omber. I can start to slowly consider drifting towards those as well. And strip mining is ultimately this, what you see now. It is just you drifting through an asteroid belt, and you mine everything that comes into range, as long as you've got the lasers for it, of course. Unlike standard mining lasers, which sort of do a quick activation and cycle round, strip miners, as you can see, they take a lot longer to do a full cycle. Which means if you switch one off or on, there's no real difference. It just kind of keeps going. Just keep an eye on your capacitor. Of course, I can sit there with my micro warp drive on, again calling it a micro warp drive, my afterburner on, just to get that little bit extra speed as I'm drifting past these and just collecting ores. And that's really all there is to strip mining. It's a little bit more active than standard mining, where you kind of just get yourself into a comfortable position, lock onto a couple of asteroids, and drain them dry. You do get that kind of drift through the asteroid belt, and of course, manual movement and targeting is your friend here. Now, obviously, I'm quite close to these two. If I want to kind of go towards this asteroid up here, but without going straight towards it on an approach, I can double tap the screen and manually align to a point between the two, so that as I start drifting, I'm going to be aiming between those two and still harvesting from everything as I pass. Now, because this is a safe area, I can also just quickly open up my inventory to show you guys how much we have harvested in that time. That's nearly 20,000 Veldspar in the time it's taken to watch this. 9,000, nearly 10,000 Plagioclase, 800 Omber. It's insane how quickly you can be mining a ton of ores whilst doing this. Now, I'm not going to sit here and fill up my ore hold. That's for me to do on my own time, not when I'm making a video. But I do just want to showcase why I've got that autopilot up there. If I'm sitting here watching my nearby and I see another ship come into position, something that I don't like the look of, something that I don't recognize, what I can immediately do is firstly pop on the stealth, as long as I'm far enough away from the Plagioclase. In this case, I'm too close to this little asteroid down here. But you can pop on the stealth and that would then work, and you can just sit there and wait for them to come or go. Or if you know, like here, I can see I'm too close to this plagioclase. I can't stealth because of that, because the cloaking device will not operate this close by to something. Okay, so what else could we do? That's why the autopilot's here. We're going to hit that afterburner, we're going to tap the autopilot button, and straight away we're going to align slowly, get ourselves prepared for warp. Again, very slowly. This is not a fast-moving ship. This is why you have all like these shield extenders and other things, so you can really take as much damage as you can whilst you prepare for warp. In this case, this will take me straight back to the Juddy gate. It doesn't really matter which gate. If you're in low security, the aim is just to get to a gate or a station, because then you've got the guns there ready to defend you. Now in this case, obviously I'm going to now cancel this autopilot, because I am in, well, theoretically in low sec, I'm actually in high sec, so once I'm at that gate, I am nice and safe, and I can showcase the stealth generator. So you'll see here, eventually, we pull up at this gate. Gosh, this thing moves so ludicrously slowly. Hopefully I'm far enough away from the gate here that I can pop that on. There we go, yes, the stealth activates. I'm now cloaked. To anyone nearby, it's going to appear as if I've jumped out the system. So that guy there in his Imicus high mobility, it's going to look like I've just jumped through that gate. If he were in a ship that was chasing me, he is likely then going to go, right, okay, well, they've already jumped. He's either going to follow me through, or he's going to go back out to a belt. And if he goes back out to a belt, I can keep an eye on which one he goes to. I can consider jumping through the gate and back to safety. It's entirely up to me. Now, one thing I will say, though, is crikey, you should see how slow this thing moves when it's stealthed. I'm just going to literally approach one of these asteroid belts. If you thought it was slow moving beforehand, that 80 meters per second, well, crikey, just check this out. It's just, I don't really know what to say when it comes to mining barges. They are painfully slow. Anyway, that does just about cover everything that I wanted to mention in regards to mining, in regards to strip mining, sorry. What I am going to do now, though, is I'm going to put on screen some images that I found through a friend of mine on on my Discord. He has mentioned these, and this is just basically a list of where to find specific ores, and what rarity, what minerals those produce, all that kind of information should be on screen for you. Now, there are going to be 2 of these, so I am going to extend the length of the back of this video. It's going to keep going for a little bit of time with those 2 images. So with that on screen now, I'm going to say thank you ever so much for watching this far into the video. I do hope that what you're finding on screen now should be very helpful for any of you doing mining, just where to find those ores and what those ores will actually do. And certainly, I hope this guide to strip mining has given you an idea of what to do there too. Anyway, as I said, thanks very much for watching, folks. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.